Hey, what's up, y'all? In this video, we're going to talk about Drake's case against UMG from an attorney's perspective. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Florida. I passed the bar in 2013, and I've been licensed ever since. I could have got licensed federally because there's a federal portion to the bar also. When you pass, you just have to submit your application to Washington, D.C., which I did not at the time. I don't currently practice law, just full disclosure. I figured out other better uses of my time and money in order to make a living. And so I just want to throw that out there. But I do have more knowledge of the law, obviously, than a layperson. There's a common misconception that where people ask you what you specialized in law school, but law school doesn't have specific degrees. Everybody has to learn all the laws across the board. So it's been a while since I took the bar. It's been a while since I went to law school. So all of it's not completely fresh in my mind, but I'll be pulling up resources as we go through these things. I use ChatGPT a lot to help jog my memory or just give me some guidance. But even doing that, I think I have an advantage over a regular person because I know what questions to ask ChatGPT. So that's useful. Uh, this is my first doing anything like this. I started creating this little studio of mine to create content completely different from what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to have another channel that I'm launching in the next week or so that is going to be more like productivity related, educational related, things about passive income, how I created my business and built my business that I currently make a living off of, and just kind of like providing travel vlog type stuff because I'm traveling around the world right now. But anyway, you don't care about that. You clicked because you wanted to hear about Drake and UMG, so I'm gonna get into that information right now. When I started looking into it, the thing that came to my mind, well, first, all right, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start a totally new chat instance than the previous one that I had going on this subject because I want to kind of uh, walk you through this process. So I'm just going to start. Topic is Drake versus UMG lawsuits. And then I saw on earlier that there is a copy of the filing on courthousenews.com. So I want to go there because I was only looking at that on my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and go to their website and pull up the actual filing. Here's the article: Drake sues his own record label. I could probably I haven't figured out how to do a screen record or share at the same time while I'm recording content. So I apologize about that. But here, 81 page civil complaint. So that's a lot. And I haven't read it all. I was kind of going through it a little bit and looking at bits and pieces as I was going through. And one thing in my previous chat instance, because this was yesterday, I didn't have the filing yet. I was curious about the Texas case. So I'll mention something about the Texas case that's interesting. I was using the Texas case to try and figure out because that was the defamation case. That was explicitly about defamation at the time, and I was curious what Drake needed to prove in order to prove defamation, and then also what UMG and iHeartRadio would need to provide in defense. And also, I was curious because these are pre-suit petitions. So actually, that reminds me. So because I'm not practicing a lot, I don't have a lot of experience with pre-suit petitions. Even when I was practicing, the law that I was doing, I never filed a pre-suit petition or had to defend a pre-suit petition. We were either filing lawsuits or not filing lawsuits. Real estate related, family law, divorces, things like, wasn't doing a lot of this corporate law kind of stuff. So let me just ask, Drake's burden in the pre-suit petition in Texas, because that's the only pre-suit petition that exists right now. The Texas one was withdrawn, and the federal court, I think it's actually a lawsuit, so it's not a pre-suit petition. So maybe we can skip past this because some of this stuff is kind of irrelevant right now. The federal case is the more important. So, but I'll just throw it out there: to investigate a potential claim in a pre-suit discovery, to depose, question employees for UMG iHeartRadio. They'd need to investigate a potential claim. He must demonstrate that he has a reasonable belief a claim exists and needs to discover to determine the scope or details. Says he may argue that evidence is at risk of being destroyed or becoming unavailable without immediate court intervention. So also, another important fact in that case that I discovered was that they were supposed to have a hearing on the pre-suit petition for whether it would be allowed to go forward with the discovery, or whether he'd succeed or not on the pre-suit petition. And January 13th was the date. There hasn't been any news that's come out about that. I tried to access the Bexar County court files, but it was inaccessible, the court record search, and I have no idea why. I thought maybe it's because I'm not in the United States right now, but I asked a friend in the US to see if they could access it from within the US. And I tried my VPN before that, obviously, and that didn't work. But sometimes the VPN doesn't always work. So I asked my friend in the US. They still weren't able to access it. If you see this, maybe you can give it a shot. But now I don't know why Bexar County's courthouse is not allowing, or they're just down, and you're not able to search their court records. Federal court records, I found the document through courthousenews.com, but I'm going to try to get access to the federal court records. You have to put in an application and get approved in order to get access, but I'll probably do that, especially if people show interest in this video and want more information about it and want more breakdown. I'll do more of this. But so as of right now, I just wanted to download that document so I could then upload it to ChatGPT. And it's pretty big, and I know ChatGPT is kind of limited. I have access to their most new and premium, I'm blanking on the word for it, but you have limited queries using that one, so I'm not set to use that one right now. But we'll see how 4.0 handles. And what I'm most curious about is right now is what the claims are, what exactly Drake is claiming. And I know there's been a lot of articles and a lot of talk about that, but I just want to just be sure about what the claims are, and then what is the burden of proof for those claims. So I'm going to ask, I uploaded the PDF of the document. Can you analyze this filing for exactly the claims that I should say legal claims Drake is making? Yeah, I think it's straightforward. It's defamation is the main claim. I'm pretty sure that he's okay, so defamation and defamation per se. The core allegation is UMG published and promoted false defamatory statements accusing Drake of pedophilia, sex trafficking, and other criminal acts. The song and related materials imply Drake is a pedophile, a sex offender, harbors offenders at home. The statement have caused significant harm to Drake's reputation, emotional well-being, and professional career. And the intent, UMG allegedly acted with actual malice, knowing the statements were false or recklessly disregarding their truth. Now that's important, because my research yesterday, I was reminded that for a public figure to make a successful claim of defamation, they need to prove actual malice, which means that the person making the defamatory statement was not just misled or mistaken when they made the statement, but they did it with the intention to hurt the reputation of the person making the claim. And we'll just sure that is same in federal court, but I'm pretty sure that's the same. I was referencing the Texas case when I was having that discussion yesterday, but we'll double check that. So, and also harassment in the second degree, UMG's actions amounted to coordinated campaign of harassment causing Drake fear, physical harm, and emotional distress. It was a clever device. I did see the opening statement of the claim, and Drake's attorneys do a clever job of making an emotional appeal to the harm and fear that his family was put in. Immediately talking about instances where people were driving by his home, and incidents that happened at his home immediately after the song was released. So I have to admit that was kind of the most persuasive way that they probably could have approached drafting that publishing content calling for violence against Drake and promoting it despite awareness of threats and actual violence. And then here's interesting: violations of New York general business law. UMG engaged in deceptive trade practices by covertly inflating the song's popularity through bots. So I thought that was interesting because he dropped claim against Spotify. He withdrew that lawsuit, but he still is retaining the bots allegation. But I did notice in the factual part of the filing, to claim about the bots, he's referencing the guy that went on DJ Academic stream, and everybody believed that this was legit, but then a bunch of facts came out, questions about the document he provided to try and prove that he was paid, and it seems to be a nothing burger, as they say, but it's still smart for Drake's attorneys to just throw everything in the lawsuit that they possibly can and force the other side to defend it, even though that's a garbage, unsubstantiated claim about the bots. The factual part that he uses by referencing DJ Academic's stream interview, it's just how attorneys work. They just throw in everything they can. It's not plaintiff's job to disprove it. They want to put that on the other side and just give them more work that they have to do. And finally, the relief sought. Drake is seeking compensatory, punitive, and treble damages along with attorney's fees and cost, declarative and injunctive relief to establish that the defamatory statements are false and to prevent UMG from promoting the material further, which that goes to the theory that the reason he's doing it is to try and prevent Kendrick Lamar from performing the song at the Super Bowl. So let's just follow up and just make sure that point about the requirements about proving defamation on a public figure. So I asked, what is the burden of defamation on a public figure like Drake? I should have specified. Let me edit that. In a federal court defamation case involving a public figure like Drake, the burden of proof is shaped by the standard established by New York Times versus Sullivan and its progeny. A public figure is someone who has achieved pervasive fame, blah, blah, blah. We all know Drake is a public figure. Let's just get straight to Drake must prove the following elements to succeed in his defamation case. One, that the defendant UMG must have made a statement about Drake that is provably false. Two, opinions and hyperbolic statements are generally protected unless they imply undisclosed defamatory facts. See, now it's a vague statement, or just one a little bit above my understanding because I haven't litigated defamation cases. So I'm going to ask for more about that. So I'm going to copy and paste that statement. Opinions and hyperbolic statements are generally protected unless they imply undisclosed defamatory facts. What does this mean in simpler language? Exaggerated opinions and hyperbole, exaggerated statements are usually protected under free speech. For example, saying I think Drake is overrated is an opinion and not not defamatory because it's based on a personal belief, not a claim of fact. However, if an opinion hints at hidden facts that are defamatory, it could be considered defamation. For instance, if someone says Drake gives me creepy vibes because of what I know about him, it implies there are undisclosed damaging information. If that hidden fact is false statement, that could be defamatory. And I think it doesn't take a legal scholar to realize that Drake has a lot of questionable behavior in his history that alone is going to be protected from any claim for defamation, that it's going to fail because he himself has done questionable things that is going to be able to be brought out in court and is going to defeat his claim because people could draw conclusions, or at least make inferences, which is all that Kendrick does. He doesn't make any clear cut accusations. He also is being artistic and poetic in his way that he addresses these things, but he's asking you to draw inferences based on facts of things that Drake has in his history. And the other key thing that I don't see talked about anywhere, that is one of the key pieces of information that I see in this case, just from an attorney perspective, that is actually it's also a clever and smart move by Drake, is that by bringing it's both a point for him and a point against him, because so I'll start with the point for him, is by bringing this case, he's daring UMG to prove or back up the allegations that he's a PDF file. And the reason I say that's clever is because that's against UMG's interest, because they own his catalog of music and they make a lot of money off of his music. So by them proving these bad things about Drake, they thereby hurt their own interests, because then they can't make as much money, because if people stop listening to Drake, then the catalog is worthless, which is one of the reasons I think a lot of this is just PR by Drake, because he knows that. So that's why he's doing this. He's daring them to hurt their own interests. So I think he's hoping that they won't go against their own interests, because they have a invested interest in his catalog. So they're not gonna come out. And so far he's right. They haven't said anything about the allegations against him being potentially true. They haven't used that defense. They haven't said anything about his sketchy behavior in the past. So far, they're not willing to go there, and he's right. But just from somebody observing what's happening, there's also the fact that it hurts his claim. One of his claims, that he is saying they're trying to devalue him to assist in negotiations and renegotiation of his contract. But that doesn't make sense, because if they devalue Drake, then they devalue his catalog and they devalue the investment. It would be like a football team sending a hit out on one of their own players, having someone go and take out the knee of one of their players, giving him an injury so they can renegotiate his contract at a lower price. But the problem is, now you have a player with a hurt knee. So that's why that claim of Drake's doesn't make sense, and why personally I think this is all just PR. He's just using the courts for PR For anybody that thinks that he won, I think it's obvious that he lost, that he's going through all this right now is the most obvious fact that he did not win the battle for any of the Drake fans that think that he did. And I think anything that has to do with that he's trying to stick up for the little guy and be some sort of martyr. I think this is just pure self-interest, pure PR, trying to salvage his reputation, trying to devalue Kendrick's win and hurt his reputation, to give this idea that the song wasn't as big as people thought it was and that bots were used. Which I have to admit that I'm surprised that it went past the Presuit petition. I thought it would never go past the Presuit petition when I saw the first one withdrawn. I wasn't surprised at all. But now he has actually filed a legitimate lawsuit. But I think that's also a sign that he's just getting more desperate and desperate, because things just aren't going his way and there just doesn't seem to be any way out of recovery for him. So he's just really going nuclear at this point, is what it appears to me. I guess that's probably enough for me to cover. I could jump into some of this other stuff. Could go on here about actual malice, higher standard for public figures. Yeah, let's talk about some about that. All right, so actual malice. Drake must prove that UMG acted with actual malice, meaning UMG knew the statements were false, or UMG acted with reckless disregard for whether the statements were true or false. And that's the reason that he's throwing in those claims about them wanting to renegotiate his contract at a lower price. That's why he's throwing that into the filing, is because he needs to somehow give a reason for UMG to have wanted to, and that's really the biggest hurdle, because of everything I just said. Is it just doesn't make sense. Why would UMG want to devalue their biggest artist? It doesn't make sense. Burden of proof. The standard of proof is clear and convincing evidence for the actual malice element. Clear and convincing evidence is a higher threshold than the preponderance of evidence standard, but lower than beyond a reasonable doubt. So I don't see any way that they're going to be able to prove by clear and convincing evidence that they acted with actual malice, especially given that Drake benefited from their promotion in previous beefs. Even in the current beef, he had his chance to win this beef. He had his own songs, and they just didn't hit. Kendrick was more strategic. He came with Meet the Grams immediately after Family Matters dropped. That's a large reason that Drake didn't prevail. So it'll be interesting to see how some of this stuff plays out. I'm going to keep on watching, and if there's more filings, I'll come back if anybody seems to show any interest in any of this stuff. But thanks for watching. Appreciate you.